Good morning. I am sitting here. What is your name, sir?
Good morning. My name is Lloyd Joshua Sams, Houston, Texas.
All right, and the topic of conversation today will be bail. My first question to you is, what do you think about people sitting in jail behind an accusation that may or may not be true?
It almost makes my blood boil. I'm a firm believer and supporter of the Constitution. You know, that's what's given us a lot of the great joys and benefits we have as Americans. And there is a phrase, I don't know exactly which amendment at this very second, but that you are innocent of a charge or a crime until you are proven guilty. And I think far too often in this country and in this state and in this county of Texas and Harris County, I think that many individuals are unfairly locked in jail, put in prison, or put into the jurisprudence system without any hope of having fair legal representation to defend themselves of an accusation. An allegation is not fact. So it makes me somewhat cringe knowing that we have a system that actually defies the very fabric of the Constitution that set up this great country.
How does it make you feel to know innocent people are sitting behind bars simply because they can't afford to pay bail, a cash bail?
Well, again, it goes back to the original preposition or assumption that one is innocent until proven guilty. So it makes me feel as that there are two different legal systems, one for individuals who have resources, financial funds, connections, and then there is a legal system for the poor, for the indigent, and maybe disenfranchised. And so it feelings, I try not to go on feelings because, emotions can really start rage, but factually, I look at facts and statistics in this state and in this county and throughout the nation, and it makes me feel upsetting and disappointed that today in 2021, we still live in a system of governance that houses the innocent until you have pinned enough guilty allegations on them or corroborated a story or have made them face some type of plea deal and sign and agree to something that they know that they didn't do or know that they don't want for themselves in their own life. But the prisoner or the person being accused of a crime feels as though they have no other choice but to sign this legal document to get out of jail and to get back to the real world.
So you feel people actually sign plea deals because they cannot afford to pay a cash bail?
I'm not going to say I feel, I know absolutely, without any false equivocation, for a fact that there are individuals, we have individuals that come to us from all over the United States, mainly the southeastern region, to peer justice, to seek reform, to offer assistance in economic and racial and criminal justice reform here, such as the bail reform project that we've been on the front lines with for over 2 or 3 years now, and have made great strides in the misdemeanor field. But we look to pursue this even further. We know that there are opponents of our mission. We know that there are those against what we're trying to do, but all we're trying to do as pure justice advocates is to support the Constitution, which is to hold those individuals innocent until proven guilty.
Talking about data and statistics. Now, this is according to the Kinder Institute. Did you know over 40% of Americans cannot afford a $400 emergency?
Can you repeat? Did I know that?
That over 40% of Americans cannot afford a $400 emergency.
Yeah. I'm very familiar with the Kinder Institute. They're at one of my alma maters at Rice University here in Houston. So they do very, very good research, competent, and I would assume, and I would lean and err on the side of their due diligence in stating that their stat finding and their facts are correct. 40% is a great, what we call statistically significant percentage of folks not able to pay for a $400 rainy day issue. But that's not surprising to me. You know, I am a member of an underserved community, and so I am very well informed and very much aware that there are dozens and dozens of families in every single community that cannot, if they miss one check in their monthly payments throughout the year, that can cause an entire family to go into a tailspin financially, emotionally, and we know through data that when these mishaps occur, that the domestic violence, intimate partner violence, and violence in general is more rampant.
What if I told you there's people sitting behind bars right now on low-level charges because they could not afford to pay a $100 bill? And how would that make you feel?
You know, it's more than the $400 emergency. It's more than the $100 bail bonds set by a magistrate who may or may not look like the person standing before them, who may or may not have the same life experiences standing before them. So it's actually to me some type of medieval act of hate against those who are underserved, because when there are judges who only work 20 hours a week and get paid $140,000 a year, when there are lawyers who get paid $150 an hour and they have over 60 cases or over 75 cases in a 6-month period, the judge is not often the best adjudication of a case, okay? Because they're not doing their due diligence. The legal team or the legal counsel representing that person is not giving that individual the proper service as a client. And so it's more than the $100. It's more than that, because many times a person or an individual can sit in jail for a week to 3 to 6 weeks before their trial is even heard, or there is a hearing on the case to even charge officially that person with a crime. So that person has sat in jail for more than a week, more than 2 weeks, without their family, being the breadwinner many times. The breadwinner is in this position, and now the family as a whole, the members of that family and that unit are now struggling. So the child or the children going to school, who depended on that breadwinner to put food on the table, is going to school hungry. It's more than $100 when the psyche of the partner, the spouse or the partner, is figuring and floundering, trying to figure out what they're going to do to support their family. And so when you look at the expenses that are attached, when you look at the employment or the job or occupation that person had, assuming that they had a job, or they could have been self-proprietor, they've lost clients, they've lost customers. More than likely, they're probably going to be fired from their job. And so, lastly, I want to say it's if we look at government or we look at reform in the sense that what are we getting from the dollars that we're spending in these communities? What is a government entity going to do with $100 versus someone whose life is on the line? For their whole livelihood is on the line. Their relationships with their children, the relationships with their significant others are on the line. You can't quantify that. That's no amount of money, but it makes me cringe once again.
Do you feel communities are safer by releasing those that cannot afford bail? Do you feel communities are safer by releasing those that can afford bail over keeping those incarcerated that may not have the financial funds to bond out, and why?
Look, this is more than a feeling for me. That's why I'm a part of Pure Justice. It's a passion for me. And that passion is to ensure that each person has the equality of opportunity, quality of opportunity. Again, it goes back to the idea of the notion, Roshan, that there are two separate legal systems. There's a legal system for those who can pay the $100,000, the $1,000, the $10,000, or the $100. And then there's a separate legal system for those who are making minimum wage, who are barely scraping by, who are barely making it, and they're asked to pay, a lion's share of their income, which could drastically offset their lifestyle. And so, again, this is the issue that I'm having with the system at hand. That do I feel safer? I can't say for sure that I feel safer when someone has been charged with a double homicide or manslaughter due to racial aggravation. I can't say that I feel safer when someone has hunted someone down with a rifle and gets arrested 2 months later. I can't necessarily say I feel safer with those people on the street. One thing that Pure Justice has been doing and working with Commissioner's Court here in Harris County and state and elected officials is making sure that the reforms of bail that we're instituting in these courts are not going to make things on the outside world a hotbed. In other words, we focused on bail reform for those of nonviolent crimes, and that's what we also hope to do regarding felonies as well. But once again, these individuals many times are in prison, are captives of a jurisprudence system that says you're guilty until proven innocent. Almost like during the COVID pandemic, right? I step into an office building during the height of the pandemic. I'm not wearing a mask. I sneeze and I cough. It's assumed, and I've been guiltified, that I have COVID. No one's tested me. No one's stuck a prod in me with a nose. No one's taken a blood sample from me. No one's said factually that I have COVID, but yet you've made me seem vilified that I sneezed or I coughed, which is a natural reaction. And I'm tired of people thinking that minorities are just naturally, organically, innately supposed to be arrested, or we're just naturally have a higher propensity to be in jail than any other minority group or economic class of people. So no, the question, let me just answer it outright. No, I do not feel safer when people who can pay their bail are released versus people who are in jail and cannot pay their release, because of the simple fact that I just shared, that many times the breadwinner of people who aren't in a high economic class, their entire family and household suffers over a month or two if they're not there with them able to provide.
Do you know what a PR bond is?
I believe that is a personal reconnaissance bond that the state of Texas issues to individuals who are not deemed as a flight risk or a risk to the community in clear and present danger, that they are able to be responsible to make their bond hearings, not the bond hearings, but their court hearings and trials, that they are held responsible by the court to follow up with the court.
Correct. In plain English, that is freedom for those that may be incarcerated on some type of accusation, whether it's accurate or not, but can't afford bail. It gives them the opportunity to actually be released and fight whatever charge is brought against them from home. So it would allow them to continue to work, keep their job, pay the bills, keep the family together. So you are absolutely right.
And I just want to say though, with that, it's one thing to get a get out of jail card, and I didn't say get out of jail free card. I said get out of jail to fight that fight. But again, deemed innocent until proven guilty with adequate defense, adequate legal counsel. And so it's kind of a catch-22, Rashawn, when you say, okay, we're allowing you to leave the jailhouse to go to your house to fight this jail issue. But what if we're leaving the jailhouse to go to your home, and in order to keep that home moving, the money that you would need to spend on adequate counsel, you're spending on the bills. So it's kind of like a two-edged sword in that one is not supporting the other. The idea of being released to go into your home does not make it more advantageous for a person to fight their case and to win if they are truly innocent and to prove their innocence.
Because you still have to pay for defense.
Which is not cheap.
Have you ever been incarcerated?
I have.
Did you get a bond amount to be paid? Did they give you a number to say if you pay this, you'll be released?
Yes.
Could you afford it?
I can't remember exactly what the amount was. It was an amount of money that would have been. It would have been at least for 48, 72-hour period for me to move things, me personally, around. And also the other fact of that is the communication part. You're locked up for something you did not do, right? And you're limited to a phone call, right? And so many times that's an issue because you're not able to talk to on the outside who you need to talk to in an adequate amount of time to make those adjustments for you to be bailed out. So it's not always simply that you may not have the resources or limited resources, but many times they do not make it accessible or easy for you to communicate with those who you need to communicate with.
So you sat in jail approximately 48 to 72 hours to move stuff around to actually make whatever bail they gave you so you could be released back to your regular life. Well, it's not regular anymore because you're going to court. Yeah. But to get back to work and do whatever else you had going. Mm-hmm. Did you see other people incarcerated with the same charge or similar charges than what you had that was able to immediately bond out? If you could remember.
Let's say this. And this is my real true story without getting to the who done it, when, and where.
I'm going somewhere with this.
In the holding tank,
mm-hmm.
At that time, that's the place where you are held in jail until you see the judge. In the tank, there could have been approximately 30 to 45 individuals in one unit area. Out of that 45 individuals, I'd say less than 20% were Anglo-Saxon or white, okay? So with that being said, less than 20 or 30% being Anglo, it seemed like before the sun came up the next day, there were probably only 1 or 2 out of 10 in the facility. So in other words, within the 24-hour period that I was there, it seemed to me as though that certain people had a privilege of exiting the facility quicker than I did. And I was innocent. Okay, again, I was innocent. So I kept to myself. I didn't ask questions of anyone else's reason why they were there. I was focused on me woosahing and trying to just get through this experience of something that I was charged with or accused of doing that I did not do, that I was truly innocent, which was later dismissed with prejudice.
Okay, well that kind of answered my next question. I was going to go into if you felt that communities would have been safer with letting people that may have had the same charge or similar charges than you that was able to bond out immediately in comparison to holding you in jail, but you don't know because you didn't really...
I don't want to speculate on that because we're talking about not only people's lives and facts that can be interpreted many different ways. I don't want to add any misinterpretation of any data. All I was adding is my own
Do you think
personal experience.
If you had the funds available instantly and was able to bond out as soon as you got arrested and was able to get released right after being in jail, do you think that would have made communities any safer than keeping you in jail for 48 to 72 hours?
I don't think it would have made any difference either way, to be honest with you. For me, this is my personal opinion, that I am a hardworking, productive member of society. I contribute, I volunteer, I help out wherever I can. I can't say that me not doing that would make things safer, right? So what I can say is that there's an element of pinned up aggression in the captive, in the individual who is in this position, the position that I was in. I can't say me being in jail makes the community safer. What I believe is that it creates an impending danger for the community when that person is released. I mean, for anyone who's watching this, anyone at all, if you have any amount of consciousness whatsoever in you, can you imagine yourself being bullied, beaten, and arrested by multiple police officers for something you just did not do? You don't even understand why they're pulling on you, holding you, pinning you down. You don't even understand. You just were somewhere one day at the wrong time, at the right place at the wrong time, and you're summoned into the back of a police car. So if you can imagine that yourself, if you could just imagine it, I know it seems out of the ordinary, it seems like it could never happen, but it happens every day. And so these are the people who we're talking about. So if I'm in jail paying for something that I did not do, when you release me, how do you think I'm going to feel? Do you think, does the community think that the police will be safer? Because if the police are safe, does that mean that the community is safe? I mean, these are all just philosophical questions. I don't have the answer, but I can tell you that by putting someone into jail who did not commit that crime and you release them back into the street, they're going to have a greater disdain for the authority than someone who was left alone and never went to jail in the first place.
How do you feel about a bond, no bond system? Meaning, all accused of certain crimes are either held, or those that's accused of certain crimes are either released despite having the money or not. In other words, how do you feel about just straight up abolishing the cash bail system in general? It's either you're held or you're released.
I don't know. I think there would be some necessary investigative research on that, especially in a community in a city the size of Houston, the metropolitan area. I also believe that, this is my gut feeling, that there is an entire hidden capitalistic enterprise attached to the industrial prison complex with the bail bondsman community. No one wants to speak about it, but no one raises their hand when they grow up and they're asked the question in elementary or middle schools, what do you want to do when you grow up? And they say, I want to be a bail bondman, right? So there is some type of hidden cabal, hidden connection or fraternal connection with the court system and the bail bond community. When you're talking about moving cash around, because you said, we're talking about cash money having to be put up on someone's life against their name on a ledger. And that much money being moved around on someone's innocence, right? It doesn't really say to me that we live in a constitutionalistic society that upholds the value of innocence. Because if we did, we wouldn't require someone to unload sums of money that they may or may not have to steal from Paul to pay Peter, which is another issue altogether. So that means that if you had to borrow money from Paul to pay Peter for your legal fees, and then when you get out, you don't have just a legal issue with the court, you now have a personal debt issue matter with Paul and Peter. And so I can't say right now definitively that, as a prudent person, that I have enough information to answer that with complete solidification and saying that yes, we should have a bail system or no, we shouldn't. What I do know is that we should not lock up individuals for not supporting information or data or evidence. We should not lock up people for hearsay. We should not lock up people because of their race. We should not lock up people for how they're wearing their hair or the clothes that they're wearing. We should have statements. I think that if in many police reports, you have to, in the police report, when you arrest someone, state what the probable cause is as an officer. I believe that officers should not be dispatched or arrive on the scene unless there's probable cause to begin with. So in order for the officer to arrive to any scene, whether they saw it or was dispatched or called in, their report must be corroborated with several individuals or an individual who saw this same situation take place. So I believe if an officer simply writes a police report without the corroboration of 2 or 3 other witnesses who saw this person do the same exact thing, then there's no way that I think that you should even arrest the person, right? There should never have even been an arrest in the first place if you didn't have 2 or 3 other witnesses that saw the exact same thing with the officer saw in his report. So those are the type of things that I would address in terms of reform. Also, I mean, I think that's it. I think that it is a complicated issue, but I don't know personally if we have enough information to completely annihilate bond. And I will go so far to say, yes, there should be an annihilation of bond if there are offenses who are non-violent. They didn't attack anyone, they didn't hurt anyone, no one got hurt. It was just an infraction of a violation of the law. I think people can learn from their mistakes and do better.
Thank you, Joshua, Lloyd, Sams. Thank you for spending the time with us. And until next time.
It's a pleasure.